The settlement of Ardalis was quiet that morning. The sky was a pale silver, streaked with clouds that shimmered in strange shifting colors. Alien structures towered above the ground, spires of translucent crystal that glowed faintly with energy flowing through their veins. Most inhabitants of Ardalis were used to the occasional tremor, small quakes caused by mining or distant storms, but nothing had prepared them for what was about to happen. Ethan, a human who had been stationed on Ardalis for nearly 2 months, walked carefully along one of the winding streets. He was lean and strong, with sharp, observant eyes that missed little. Unlike the aliens around him, who were tall and covered in scaled or feathered skin, humans were considered fragile, almost delicate. That was the common perception, and most aliens underestimated him. Ethan had always found that amusing. Being underestimated was useful. He had learned to use it to his advantage. As he passed a marketplace filled with alien vendors, he noticed the tension in the air. The ground vibrated faintly beneath his feet. Most beings ignored it, assuming it was nothing, but Ethan paused. He crouched slightly, placing his hand on the ground. The vibrations were rhythmic, not chaotic. There was purpose behind them. Something stirred below the surface. "That's just a minor quake," one of the alien vendors called dismissively, waving a clawed hand. "Nothing humans need to worry about." Ethan stood, his expression calm. "Minor? Maybe," he said slowly. "But something tells me this isn't just natural." The alien chuckled, clearly amused by the human's concern. "You think a fragile human can sense danger better than our technology?" Before Ethan could reply, the ground trembled violently. A crack split through the street where he had been walking moments earlier. Rocks shifted and small structures swayed. The market erupted into panic. Vendors shouted, trying to grab what they could, while aliens and humans alike ran for safety. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He grabbed a piece of falling debris to shield himself, his mind already assessing the situation. The crack widened faster than expected, and a low rumbling sound grew from beneath the surface. It was not just a tremor. Something was moving. Something massive. People screamed as the street split open further and bright blue light flickered from the chasm. The light was unnatural, almost alive. Ethan stepped closer, curiosity and caution battling in his mind. He realized this was no ordinary quake. This was the awakening of something old, something powerful. Leaders of the alien settlement arrived, their presence commanding attention. They were tall and imposing, with ceremonial armor that glimmered in the trembling light. Their leader, a figure named Clyrix, stood at the edge of the fissure, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe. "Step back," Clyrix ordered, his voice carrying a vibration that made the smaller aliens recoil. "This is dangerous." "Evacuate the area." Most followed his command, but Ethan stayed rooted to the spot. He studied the fissure, noting patterns in the trembling earth and the light emanating from below. He had seen enough strange phenomena on Earth to know that sometimes the calmest observer could understand danger better than the most advanced technology. One of Clyrix's aides looked at Ethan, frowning. "Why aren't you afraid?" he demanded. "This ground could swallow you in an instant." Ethan smiled faintly. "Because running blindly doesn't help. Understanding does." The aide shook his head, muttering something under his breath in a language Ethan didn't understand. Around them, the trembling grew stronger, and a low, resonant hum filled the air. It vibrated through bones, rattling teeth and causing structures to sway dangerously. Then it happened. The fissure widened enough to reveal a massive form below. Ethan could see glowing scales, each one the size of a small vehicle, moving slowly but deliberately. A single enormous eye opened, pulsating with an eerie light and fixed directly on them. The sight was terrifying, yet awe-inspiring. The crowd of aliens froze, fear rooting them in place. Many had never seen anything like this. Their legends spoke of creatures sleeping beneath the ground, but they had dismissed them as myths. Now they could not deny reality. Ethan's mind raced. The creature, or machine, he wasn't sure which, was enormous and clearly ancient. It had been dormant, but something had awakened it, and its attention was fixed on them. Panic would not save anyone. Action would. "Everyone, calm down," Ethan shouted, projecting his voice over the trembling. "Do not make sudden movements. We need to understand it before it decides to act." Some of the younger alien warriors hesitated, unsure if they should follow a human's orders. But the calmness in Ethan's voice, the confidence in his stance, drew them in. Slowly, they began to move with him, forming a rough circle at a safe distance from the fissure. Ethan crouched slightly, placing his hands on the ground again. He studied the vibrations, the patterns, and even the timing of the glowing pulses. Then an idea came to him. Humans had an advantage: improvisation. While alien technology could react quickly, humans could adapt faster. He turned to the group. If we can create a pattern of vibrations in the opposite frequency, it might calm it, or at least hold it still long enough for us to understand what we're dealing with. The aliens looked at him incredulously. You propose to control that with what? Clyrix asked, gesturing toward the massive creature below. Not control, Ethan replied. Communicate, or at least respond. We have to try something or we'll all be buried. The younger warriors, inspired by his confidence, began to scavenge what they could: tools, resonators, energy conduits, and followed Ethan's instructions. He instructed them to place the devices around the fissure in a specific pattern. Every movement was precise, every adjustment calculated. As they worked, the massive eye below tracked them, blinking slowly, as if observing their efforts. The vibrations became more intense, shaking loose rocks and debris, but Ethan's calm presence reassured the group. One misstep could trigger aggression from the creature, but the humans and willing aliens moved in synchronized effort, each trusting Ethan's judgment. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The fissure widened, the light flickered, and the rumbling grew louder. Then for a brief moment the trembling paused. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of the devices they had set up. The creature or machine was still. Its massive eye regarded them with curiosity rather than hostility. Ethan wiped sweat from his brow and stood straight. It's listening, he said quietly. The aliens stared at him, disbelief and awe mixing on their faces. Clyrix stepped closer, his earlier arrogance replaced by respect. Perhaps humans are not as fragile as we thought, he said. Perhaps there is wisdom in their ways. Ethan nodded. We have to understand it first. Then we survive. The ground trembled again, less violently this time, but the eye of the massive being seemed to focus more on them. Ethan felt a strange connection, as if he could sense its thoughts or at least its intent. The realization hit him. This wasn't just a creature. This was a being of intelligence, and it had just woken up after centuries of slumber. The settlement around them was silent, the aliens watching in awe as Ethan crouched again, studying the patterns of movement, light, and sound. A plan was forming in his mind, one that could determine the survival of everyone present. Then, as if the universe itself waited for his next move, the massive eye blinked slowly and a deep, vibrating sound echoed from the fissure. Ethan looked up, calm but determined, and said, "We need to speak carefully and act faster." The tremor continued beneath them, but for the first time, the humans and aliens alike realized that survival might depend not on strength alone, but on intelligence, courage, and adaptability. And one human had just proven that even the smallest species could face the greatest threat. With calm and purpose, the tremors had not stopped. They were steady, almost rhythmic now, like the heartbeat of something colossal beneath the ground. The alien settlement of Ardalis, once confident in its technological supremacy, now felt fragile and small. Debris littered the streets, and smaller buildings had begun to crack under the stress. Yet in the midst of chaos, Ethan remained calm. He crouched at the edge of the widening fissure, his eyes locked on the massive, glowing eye of the creature or machine below. It was enormous, far larger than any living being he had ever seen. Its scales shimmered with colors that seemed impossible, shifting like liquid metal. The ground hummed with power, vibrating in waves that made even the alien structures tremble. Clyrix, the alien leader, had gathered his council and warriors at a safe distance. Their expressions were mixed: fear, awe, confusion. Humans were considered weak, yet this one human was acting with confidence and clarity that even the most seasoned alien leaders lacked. "You cannot approach it," Clyrix said sharply, his voice trembling despite his authoritative tone. "It could destroy everything in seconds." Ethan shook his head. "We don't have to fight it. But we do need to understand it. If we panic, everyone dies." One of the younger aliens, a warrior named Virek, stepped forward. "And you, human, think you can control it?" he asked skeptically. "Do you even understand what it is?" Ethan glanced at him, calm and steady. "Control? No. Communicate, respond, that's the difference. The younger warrior hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. He could sense the calm authority in Ethan, a certainty that humans somehow possessed despite their physical fragility. The group began to prepare devices. Ethan instructed them on how to amplify and adjust the vibration patterns. Crude though they were, the devices could send out controlled pulses. The idea was simple: match the frequency of the tremors to calm the creature and prevent further destruction. The aliens followed his instructions, albeit with skepticism and nervousness. Ethan adjusted a small resonator device, feeling the pulse through his hands. The vibrations were intense but steady. He had seen patterns like this on Earth in seismic readings and earthquake studies. But this was something alive, something intelligent. And it was responding. "Everyone, stay calm," Ethan said. "Do not make sudden movements. Let's see if it understands our intent." The fissure widened further, revealing more of the massive form beneath. The glowing scales moved rhythmically, almost like breathing. The eye blinked slowly, its gaze intense yet not overtly hostile. Ethan felt an unexpected connection, a sense that the creature was observing, perhaps even evaluating them. Suddenly, a tremor stronger than any before shook the ground. Rocks and debris tumbled into the fissure. The aliens stumbled, some losing their balance. Panic threatened to take over. Ethan shouted, "Steady! Use your energy. Focus on the pulse." With careful adjustments, the group managed to send a counter-frequency into the ground. The tremor slowed slightly. The creature's eye narrowed, then blinked again. The response was subtle, but it was there. It was listening. Clyrix's council exchanged astonished glances. "It is responding," one whispered. "The human—" "He is making it listen." Ethan crouched low, feeling the vibrations through his feet and hands. Every pulse told a story. Movement, energy, and tension. The being beneath them was ancient, far older than any records had suggested. Perhaps it had been dormant for centuries, waiting for someone or something to awaken it. One of the engineers, an alien named Soria, spoke hesitantly. "What if it decides we are a threat? We can't survive its power if it attacks." Ethan's eyes met hers. "Then we ensure it doesn't see us as a threat. Respect it, respond carefully, and act with intelligence. Panic is what it reacts to, calmness. Calmness is our weapon." Minutes passed in tense silence. The ground vibrated, the air shimmered with energy, and the creature below shifted slightly, revealing glimpses of massive limbs and structures too large to comprehend. Every alien in the group watched, hearts pounding, yet they continued to follow Ethan's instructions. Then came the moment of truth. Ethan had adjusted the resonators to a specific pattern, one designed to mirror the pulse of the tremors perfectly. He took a deep breath and activated the final device. The ground hummed and the vibrations pulsed through the fissure. The creature's eye widened, then slowly closed as if acknowledging their effort. A collective exhale swept through the group. The tremor subsided, leaving only a faint, steady hum. The massive form below the ground remained still. Ethan stood, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's calm," he said softly. "For now." Clyrix stepped forward cautiously. "Human, how did you do that?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Observation, logic, and patience. Sometimes strength isn't in power, it's in understanding." The younger aliens whispered among themselves. Humans, fragile, underestimated humans, had survived what their technology alone could not. They had faced a being that could have destroyed the entire settlement, and with intelligence and courage had kept it from doing so. But the calm was temporary. From deep within the fissure, a low resonant vibration began again. Not a tremor this time, but a sound, a tone almost musical that resonated through the air. It was deliberate, structured. It carried intelligence. It was a message. Ethan crouched again, focusing on the vibrations. He could sense a pattern, almost like a code. "It's trying to communicate," he said. "It's not attacking, it wants something." Clyrix frowned. "We do not understand it. We cannot trust it." Ethan shook his head. "Trust isn't the point. Communication is. If we misinterpret it, we fail. If we ignore it, we die. Listen carefully." The aliens and humans around him leaned in, straining to sense the patterns. The vibrations were complex, almost musical in nature, but Ethan's human intuition allowed him to detect small repetitions, small cues in the rhythm. "This is not a threat," he explained. "It is aware. It is curious, and it is waiting to see what we do next. Soria stepped closer, admiration in her eyes. You are different from any human I've known. You think in ways we do not. Ethan smiled faintly. Maybe humans just have to be clever. We survive with our minds as much as our bodies. For a brief moment, the settlement was quiet. The air hummed with energy. The ground was stable, and the massive being below seemed to settle into a state of cautious observation. But Ethan knew better than to relax completely. Ancient, powerful beings were unpredictable. Understanding them was only the first step. Survival required ongoing vigilance. Suddenly, the vibrations shifted again, faster and more intense. The creature, or machine, was moving. Its massive form began to rise slowly from the fissure, each movement causing the ground to quake slightly. Ethan's heart raced, but his focus remained unwavering. We need to prepare, he said calmly. Whatever it wants. We need to meet it halfway, and we need to keep everyone safe. Clerics and the council nodded, recognizing that the humans' insight was their best hope. The younger warriors adjusted their positions, following Ethan's instructions with precision. Even those who had doubted him now understood. Survival depended on humans and aliens working together, with intellect and courage leading the way. The massive eye opened again, this time fully and focused on Ethan. For a moment, it felt as if time itself had stopped. Ethan met the gaze unflinching. He sensed awareness, intelligence, and curiosity within the being. A silent understanding passed between them. One species, underestimated and small, had faced the unknown and survived, at least for now. The tremor began again, softer this time, as if testing them. Ethan crouched, ready to respond. He knew this was only the beginning. The creature was awake, alert, and aware. What came next would define the future of Ardalis, and the humans had just proven that they were far more than anyone had ever imagined. Cliffhanger ending. For Part 2. The massive form slowly emerged further from the fissure, revealing more of its colossal body. The glowing eye stared directly at Ethan. With a calm yet firm voice, he said, "I think it wants to see who we are, and why we are here." The settlement held its collective breath, knowing that whatever happened next could change everything. The massive being had now risen enough from the fissure to reveal its colossal body. Its scales shimmered in colors that shifted like molten metal, and its enormous limbs pressed into the earth, leaving deep impressions in the cracked streets of Ardalis. Its eye, still glowing with intelligence, remained fixed on Ethan. He felt the weight of that gaze, not threatening but evaluating, as if it were trying to understand him, his species, and the alien settlement that surrounded them. The aliens around Ethan were tense. Many had never seen anything so large, so ancient, so impossibly powerful. Even the bravest warriors stepped back instinctively, their weapons trembling in their hands. Clyrix, the alien leader, felt his authority challenged. His council members murmured anxiously. They had survived countless dangers with their advanced technology, but this was different. This was a being from a time long before their civilization, something no weapon had ever encountered. Ethan, however, remained calm. He took a slow breath and stepped slightly forward. "It's observing," he said softly, almost to himself. "It's not attacking. It wants to know what we are." Virek, the young warrior, frowned. "You really think a human can communicate with it?" he asked skeptically. Ethan met his gaze steadily. "Not communicate like talking. Understand it, respond to it, watch and adapt. That's what humans do." The massive creature tilted its head as if acknowledging the human's presence. Then it let out a low hum, deep and resonant, vibrating through the ground and even through the air. The sound was almost musical, yet it carried power beyond comprehension. The vibration shook loose small stones and made the alien structures tremble lightly. Ethan crouched, placing his hand on the ground. He felt the pulses running through the earth. Each vibration carried a rhythm, a pattern, a structure. He realized it was trying to convey something, not a threat, but a question. Something about its world, its purpose, or its understanding of theirs. Clyrix stepped closer, his authority and curiosity combined. "Human," he said carefully. "If you are wrong, we could all perish." Ethan shook his head. "If we panic, we all perish. But if we observe, respond, and adapt, we have a chance." The young warriors and engineers began adjusting the devices Ethan had instructed them to build. They tuned the resonators to match the pulses of the being's vibrations. creating a network of frequencies that interacted with the energy radiating from the creature. Slowly, the tremors subsided, leaving only a gentle, steady hum. The massive eye blinked slowly as if in appreciation. Ethan felt a strange sensation, almost like recognition, as if the being understood that they meant no harm. The aliens whispered among themselves, stunned. Their advanced technology had not been able to pacify this creature. Yet here was a human relying on observation, patience, and intuition, achieving what they could not. Sorya, the engineer, stepped closer to Ethan. How did you know what to do? She asked wide-eyed. Ethan shrugged slightly. You observe patterns, you test responses, and you adjust. Sometimes survival depends on thinking instead of fighting. The being let out another hum, this time with more intensity. The vibrations seemed to form a sequence repeating several times. Ethan tilted his head, listening carefully. He realized it was not only observing them, it was asking them to prove themselves, to show that they were worthy of its attention. We need to respond in kind, Ethan said. Mirror the vibrations, but with slight adjustments to show understanding. Let it see we can learn. The young aliens hesitated. Mirroring the vibrations seemed risky, but Ethan's calm and clear instructions gave them confidence. Together they synchronized the devices, matching the creature's pattern, then altering it slightly to indicate responsiveness. The being paused and the hum changed, softer now, almost approving. Its enormous limbs shifted slightly, and the glowing eye focused on Ethan more intently than ever. Ethan felt the weight of that gaze. He realized the creature was curious, not just about him, but about humans, about what they could do when confronted with something unimaginable. Then, a sudden shift in the ground startled everyone. The creature's massive tail swept across the street, sending debris flying. The aliens panicked, but Ethan remained focused. He adjusted the resonators again, sending a precise counter frequency. The vibrations balanced and the tail stopped mid-swing, held in place by the interaction of their efforts. The aliens gasped. No one had ever seen a human handle a creature of this magnitude so calmly and effectively. Even Clyrix, who had doubted Ethan at first, now recognized something extraordinary. Humans were not the fragile species the legends had claimed. They were adaptable, resourceful, and capable of ingenuity beyond expectation. Ethan crouched low, studying the creature's patterns again. It was moving slowly, deliberately, almost as if testing them. He realized it had intelligence, strategy, and patience. It was not merely a beast, it was a guardian and observer, perhaps even a judge. It's trying to teach us something, Ethan said softly. We need to pay attention. Virek, inspired by the human's clarity, adjusted his resonator and watched the creature carefully. Slowly he began to understand the logic Ethan had been following. It's responding to us, he said, awe in his voice. Ethan nodded. Yes, and if we continue, we might gain its trust, or at least its understanding. The being's hums grew more complex, forming sequences that the humans and aliens could barely follow. Ethan's mind raced, analyzing patterns, adjusting their devices, interpreting subtle shifts in vibrations. Each correct response brought a slight pause, a nod of acknowledgement from the massive eye. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Sweat ran down Ethan's face, but he did not falter. Every adjustment, every pulse was critical. The creatures below were not mindless, they were calculating, testing, and observing. If they misread even one signal, disaster could strike. Then came the moment Ethan had anticipated. The vibrations shifted into a rhythm that seemed to form a doorway, a way for them to interact directly. The creature lowered one massive limb toward the surface, careful not to crush anything. Dust and stones shifted under its weight. Ethan stepped forward cautiously, signaling the aliens to stay back. It's giving us an opening, he said. We have to approach carefully, show that we mean no harm. Ethan moved toward the limb, raising his hand in a gesture of peace. The glowing eye followed him, the hum resonating softly through the ground. The aliens held their breath, witnessing a fragile human standing boldly before a being that could crush entire cities with ease. The massive limb lowered until its tip hovered just above the ground. Ethan reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and placed it gently against the scale. A pulse of energy ran through him, not painful but intense. The vibrations carried meaning, a silent acknowledgement, a bridge between species. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The aliens and humans alike stared in amazement. They realized that a human had not only survived the awakening of an ancient being, but had begun to establish contact with it. The notion that humans were weak, fragile, and insignificant was being shattered in real time. Ethan withdrew his hand slowly, feeling the weight of the creature's awareness and intelligence. He had made the first step in communication. He turned slightly to the alien, smiling faintly. "We've shown it we are capable of understanding," he said. "Now we need to see what it wants." The creature's eye narrowed briefly, then blinked slowly and deliberately. It shifted its gaze across the settlement as if scanning their world, then returned its focus to Ethan. A deep vibration resonated through the air, carrying a sequence of pulses that Ethan immediately recognized as an invitation, a challenge, or perhaps a test of trust. "This is far from over," he said quietly, "but we've survived the first encounter, and we've proven that humans,
even a single human,
can face what others could not." The aliens whispered among themselves, astonished. Their perceptions of humans had changed dramatically in mere moments. What they had once dismissed as fragile, incapable, and weak had now faced an ancient, titanic being and had survived through intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Ethan crouched again, focusing on the vibrations. He sensed the creature was patient, wise, and intelligent. It would not attack unless provoked. But it had its own purposes, and understanding them would require every bit of human ingenuity, every ounce of courage, and the cooperation of both humans and aliens. As the sun began to shift in the pale silver sky, casting long shadows across the trembling streets, Ethan realized the scale of what they faced. The creature was not simply a threat. It was a force of nature, ancient and intelligent, testing their species. And humans had already taken the first step in proving that they belonged in a galaxy filled with unimaginable power. Cliffhanger ending for Part 3. The massive being lowered its head slightly, bringing its glowing eye level with Ethan. The vibrations carried a complex pattern, almost like a question. Ethan understood immediately. This was no longer about survival alone. The creature wanted to see humanity, what they could offer, how they thought, and whether they could rise to the challenges of a universe far larger and older than themselves. Ethan straightened, determination burning in his eyes. "Then let's show them," he whispered. The colossal being remained still, its massive eye fixed on Ethan. The vibrations that rippled through the ground carried intelligence and curiosity. The aliens around him whispered anxiously. They had never witnessed anything like this. A human, standing fearlessly before a creature so ancient and powerful, acting with understanding and calm that no alien, no matter how advanced, had been able to display. Ethan crouched slightly, listening carefully to the rhythm of the vibrations. He felt them through his feet, through his hands on the resonator devices, and even in his chest. The pulses were complex, but patterns were emerging. It wasn't aggression. It wasn't a trap. It was inquiry, a test. "It's asking questions," Ethan said quietly to the small group of humans and aliens that had gathered. "We need to respond. Slowly, carefully, intelligently. This is how we survive, and maybe learn something." Clyrix, the alien leader, stepped forward, still wary but curious. "And how do you propose we answer a creature that could crush us all in a single motion?" Ethan smiled faintly. "We answer with thought, with observation, with calmness. We show it we are capable of understanding, of learning, of responding appropriately." The young warrior Virek adjusted his resonator and nodded at Ethan. "Then we follow your lead," he said. Together, humans and aliens began to replicate the pulses, not blindly, but thoughtfully. Ethan guided them to adjust the vibration slightly, mirroring the being's sequences while adding variations to demonstrate understanding. Each adjustment had to be precise. Any mistake could provoke the massive creature. The earth beneath them shivered slightly, but the creature remained calm. Its eye blinked slowly, a signal of acknowledgement. The vibrations that followed were slightly different this time, as if the being were considering their response, analyzing it, and measuring their intelligence and intent. Ethan felt a surge of focus. "It's testing us," he whispered. "It wants to see if we can think, adapt, and cooperate." The aliens around him exchanged glances. Some still doubted humans, but none could deny what they were witnessing. One human, using only intuition and observation, was interacting with a being of unimaginable power, and the results were astonishing. Soria, the engineer, adjusted her device carefully. "I've never seen anything like this," she admitted. "It's incredible that a human can do this." Ethan nodded. "We are underestimated often," he said quietly. "That's a strength if we use it correctly. The moment someone assumes we are weak, we can prove them wrong with intelligence and courage." The being shifted slightly, moving its colossal limb to a position closer to the settlement, but not threatening. Its eyes studied Ethan, its vibrations, rippling in response to every subtle change the human and aliens made. "We need to show it that we are capable of cooperation," Ethan said. "Not just between humans and itself, but between humans and aliens as well. That will prove our worth." Clyrix looked at him skeptically. "And you trust it will not attack?" Ethan shook his head. "Trust isn't the right word. Observation, understanding, and careful response. That's what matters. If we react with panic or aggression, it will respond in kind. But if we show intelligence and adaptability, it may see us as something worthy of consideration." Virek and the other young warriors worked alongside the humans, adjusting their devices, following Ethan's precise instructions. The fissure in the ground was stable now, though the hum of the vibrations reminded them that the creature was still immensely powerful. Ethan crouched lower, placing his hand on the ground to feel the pulses directly. Each vibration carried meaning, curiosity, measurement, analysis. He responded carefully, adjusting the frequencies in ways that showed comprehension without aggression. The massive eye blinked again, slowly, deliberately. Then the creature made a movement that shocked everyone. One of its massive limbs extended closer to the humans and aliens, brushing lightly against the ground, careful not to crush anything. Dust shifted under its movement and rocks slid gently. The settlement trembled slightly, but the creature's intent was clear. It was testing, not attacking. Ethan stepped forward cautiously, signaling the others to hold their positions. "It wants to see how we respond," he said. "We must remain calm. We show it intelligence, not fear." He raised his hand slowly, a gesture of peace. The massive eye followed him, glowing softly. He placed his hand gently against the enormous limb, feeling a vibration that pulsed directly through his body. It was intense but not painful, a connection, a bridge between species. The aliens around him watched in awe. They realized that a single human had not only survived an encounter with a being of immense power, but had begun to establish direct interaction. The stories of humans being fragile, incapable, and weak were shattered. The vibrations continued, forming sequences that Ethan began to recognize as patterns. They were not words, not language as humans or aliens understood it, but a form of communication. A challenge, a request, an invitation to demonstrate intelligence and cooperation. Ethan crouched, analyzing the rhythm and tone. "It wants to test our problem-solving," he said quietly. "It's ancient, powerful, and intelligent, but it is curious. That's our opportunity." The young warriors adjusted their devices accordingly, following Ethan's lead. They mirrored the pulses while introducing small variations that demonstrated comprehension. The vibrations responded, softer this time, as if acknowledging their effort. The massive eye blinked again, and the creature shifted slightly, its colossal body moving with deliberate grace. It seemed to consider their species, not as prey, not as obstacles, but as potential partners, or at least worthy observers. Ethan straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility. "This is bigger than just survival," he said to the group. "We're proving that humans and aliens who can cooperate can face challenges that others cannot. We are showing that intelligence, courage, and adaptability matter more than size or strength." Clyrix watched silently, his skepticism fading. "It recognizes us," he admitted softly. "Not just the human, but all of us, working together." The being emitted another series of vibrations, softer, almost musical in quality. Ethan crouched again, responding carefully. The patterns began to form something new, a sense of rhythm and interaction, a dialogue without words. Sorya adjusted her resonator, marveling at the process. It's incredible. It's like we're having a conversation without speaking. Ethan nodded. Exactly. And in that conversation, we show it who we are. That's what matters. The alien warriors followed his guidance, mirroring and responding to the pulses. Slowly, the vibrations from the creature became steadier, calmer. It shifted its massive limbs to positions that no longer threatened the settlement. Its eye remained fixed on Ethan, conveying a sense of acknowledgement, curiosity, and perhaps even respect. For the first time since the tremors began, the settlement felt a fragile peace. The creature was awake, intelligent, and powerful, but it had not attacked. It had tested, measured, and responded to the humans and aliens in a way that suggested understanding. Ethan straightened, feeling the vibrations through the ground one last time. "We've passed the first test," he said. "Now we have to be ready for what comes next. This creature is ancient, intelligent, and powerful, but it also values intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation. That's where humans excel." The aliens whispered among themselves, astonished at what they had witnessed. Their perceptions of humanity had changed dramatically. Humans were no longer fragile, underestimated species. They were capable, intelligent, adaptable, and courageous. One human had faced an ancient titanic being and had survived, not through weapons or force, but through wit, observation, and calm determination. The massive eye blinked once more, slowly. The vibrations pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Ethan sensed it was a signal, a promise of more to come. The creature would not attack, but it was not finished. It wanted to see, to learn, and perhaps to test further. The settlement around them was quiet, the air shimmering with energy, but a sense of awe and anticipation hung in the atmosphere. Ethan knew that the coming moments would define not only the survival of Ardalis, but the standing of humans in a galaxy filled with forces far larger and older than their civilization. Cliffhanger ending. For Part 4. The creature lowered its massive head slightly, bringing its glowing eye level with Ethan once more. The vibrations that rippled through the ground formed a complex sequence, a clear message that this was far from over. Ethan straightened, determination burning in his eyes. "It wants more," he whispered. "It wants to understand us. Completely." The aliens and humans around him held their collective breath, realizing that the next interaction could change everything. The massive being remained partially emerged from the fissure, its enormous eye glowing with intelligence and curiosity. Its vibrations pulsed through the ground like a heartbeat, filling the settlement of Ardalis with a power that was both terrifying and mesmerizing. The aliens had formed a wide circle around the fissure, their weapons lowered but ready, while the humans followed Ethan's lead, every movement precise and deliberate. Ethan crouched at the edge of the fissure, feeling the vibrations pulse directly through his body. He could sense the being's attention on him, not as a threat, but as a challenge, a test to see if this fragile human and his companions were worthy of interacting with something so ancient and powerful. "We've come this far," Ethan said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "Now we need to prove that intelligence, courage, and adaptability matter more than brute strength." Clyrix, the alien leader, stepped forward, his expression a mixture of awe and apprehension. "You are unlike any human we have known," he said, voice carrying across the trembling settlement. "Your species. You are underestimated in ways I cannot describe. You face forces we would flee from, and yet you do not waver." Ethan nodded. "It's not about fear or strength. It's about understanding, observation, and cooperation. That's how humans survive. And today, that might be the only way all of us survive." The massive eye blinked slowly as if acknowledging his words. The vibrations shifted faster this time, forming sequences that seemed more complex than anything they had encountered before. Ethan crouched, analyzing every pulse, every nuance. He realized that the being was testing them further, seeing if they could adapt to patterns more intricate and demanding. "We need to respond carefully," he said to the group. "Not just copy it, but understand it, anticipate it. show that we can think. That's what it's looking for. The humans and aliens began adjusting the resonators following Ethan's guidance. Each adjustment required attention, precision, and trust. The being shifted slightly, bringing its colossal limbs closer to the settlement without causing damage. Dust and debris trembled under its weight, but its intent was clear. It was testing, not attacking. Ethan crouched lower, placing his hand directly on the ground. The vibrations ran through him, almost like a dialogue without words. He could sense patterns, sequences, and repetitions. He was learning about them as much as they were learning about it. "This is about more than survival," Ethan whispered. "It's about proving that humans and those who work with us can rise to challenges that seem impossible." Soria, the alien engineer, adjusted her resonator with precision. "I've never seen anything like this," she said. "It's like we're speaking without words, but it understands everything we're doing." Ethan nodded. "Exactly. And if we succeed, we might show it that cooperation, intelligence, and adaptability are forces stronger than mere size or power." The being emitted a deeper, more complex series of vibrations. Ethan crouched, interpreting them carefully. It was not only testing their intellect, but their ability to work together under pressure. Every misstep could provoke a reaction, but every correct response brought subtle acknowledgement. "Follow my lead," Ethan instructed the humans and aliens. "Adjust the pulses, mirror the patterns, but add subtle variations to show understanding. Think, adapt, and communicate. That's how we survive and earn its recognition." Minutes passed in tense silence. The vibrations formed intricate sequences, faster and more complicated than before. Ethan's mind worked quickly, analyzing and responding in real time. The aliens, guided by his calm authority, adjusted their devices precisely. Slowly, the tremors began to stabilize. The massive being shifted again, lowering its colossal head to a level closer to the humans and aliens. Its glowing eye studied Ethan as if evaluating not just him but his entire species. "You're doing well," Ethan whispered to himself. "Now show it what humans are capable of." He stepped forward cautiously, raising his hand in a gesture of peace. The glowing eye followed his movement, and he placed his hand gently against the enormous limb. A pulse of energy ran through him, not painful but intense. The vibrations carried meaning, an acknowledgement, a recognition that their efforts were understood. The aliens around him gasped. They had seen many humans before, but none had faced such an ancient, titanic being with courage, intelligence, and composure. The old perceptions of humans as fragile or weak had been completely shattered. The creature emitted a softer, more rhythmic vibration. Ethan crouched, responding carefully, interpreting the pattern and mirroring it with subtle variations to show comprehension. The being's eye blinked slowly, almost as if in approval. The pulses became steadier, calmer. The creature's massive limbs shifted further back, reducing the threat to the settlement. "It's acknowledging us," Ethan said quietly, a small smile forming on his face. "It's learning that we can think, adapt, and cooperate. That's the key." Clyrix nodded slowly, awe in his eyes. "This human, he has done what our technology and our bravest warriors could not. He has earned its recognition." Ethan crouched again, focusing on the vibrations. He realized the creature was not only aware of their actions but also measuring their potential, their intelligence, and their ability to work together. It was ancient, powerful, and wise, but it was capable of respect and recognition. The ground trembled slightly but not dangerously. The vibrations now felt like a heartbeat, steady and calm. Ethan understood the being's message. It was no longer a threat. It was observing, evaluating, and acknowledging the humans and aliens as species capable of understanding and cooperation. "This is it," Ethan said softly. "We've passed the tests. We've shown it that humans and our allies can rise to challenges that others would fail." The being's massive eye blinked slowly, and the vibrations shifted to a more harmonious rhythm. Ethan sensed it was a form of approval, a silent acknowledgement that their species had earned its respect. For the first time since the tremors began, the settlement felt a true sense of calm. The colossal being had tested them, challenged them, and now recognized them. The humans and aliens around Ethan exchanged astonished glances, realizing that they had witnessed something extraordinary. A human had faced an ancient, powerful being and had not only survived but earned its acknowledgement. Ethan straightened, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished. "We've done it," he said quietly. "We've proven that intelligence, courage, And adaptability can rival any force, even something this ancient and powerful. The aliens murmured among themselves. Their perceptions of humanity forever changed. Humans were no longer fragile or insignificant. They were capable of extraordinary ingenuity, bravery, and cooperation. One human had led them through an encounter that could have destroyed their entire settlement, and they had survived together. The massive being shifted its gaze across the settlement, then back to Ethan. The vibrations pulsed gently like a heartbeat of understanding. Ethan placed his hand once more on the ground, feeling the connection. This was no longer about survival alone. It was about establishing a new understanding between species. Clyrix stepped forward, bowing slightly. "You have done what we never imagined possible," he said. "Humans, your species has proven that courage and intelligence matter more than strength. You have earned respect that none could have anticipated." Ethan smiled faintly. "It's not just humans," he said. "It's all of us working together. Intelligence, cooperation, and courage can overcome even the greatest challenges." The vibrations pulsed again, steady and calm. Ethan sensed a deep acknowledgement from the ancient being, as if it had recognized the potential in humanity and their allies. The settlement of Ardalis was safe for now, but the encounter had changed everyone forever. Humans were no longer underestimated. They had risen to face the unimaginable and succeeded. The colossal being lowered its massive head slightly, and the glowing eye dimmed, signaling a temporary withdrawal. The fissure began to close slowly and the ground settled. The settlement trembled once more, but without danger. The humans and aliens had survived, learned, and proven their worth. Ethan stood at the edge of the fissure, looking at the creature one last time before it retreated fully beneath the ground. He knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had demonstrated courage, intelligence, and adaptability on a scale that the galaxy had not seen before. And this encounter would be remembered, not as a story of weakness, but as a story of triumph. Ending. The humans and aliens stood together, looking at the now calm fissure. Ethan turned to Clyrix and the other leaders. "We survived because we worked together. We proved that intelligence, courage, and cooperation matter more than power alone. That's what humans bring to the galaxy." The aliens nodded, their respect for humanity forever changed. And as the sun set over Ardalis, casting shimmering light across the translucent spires, Ethan realized that this was not the end, but a beginning. A beginning where humans had shown that even the smallest, most underestimated species could face the unimaginable, adapt, survive, and rise above every challenge. In the universe of ancient powers and titanic beings, humanity had proven one simple truth: courage, intelligence, and heart could rival even the greatest forces of creation.